Hi guys, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Husna and welcome to my channel. This is my second book review session. Before we start, do you know that April is the Autism Awareness Month? That is why I am today wearing blue, because blue represents autism awareness. So due to this special month, the book that I am reviewing today is so much related to autism, which is Memoirs of an Imaginary Friend by Matthew Green. So what's interesting about this book is because this book highlighted about a special need boy, which is a boy with Asperger's syndrome. However, it is quite interesting on how the writer managed to actually tell the story in such a beautiful way, because having Asperger's syndrome means that these children have so many limitations and disabilities. But the writer managed to actually tell the stories by showing to the readers out there that these kind of children have so many other talents, these kind of children have so many other skills that they can do, that they can develop more. Secondly, what's interesting about this book is because this is a fictional book and I love reading fictional, so maybe for those out there that love to read fictional books, this book is for you guys. However, if you think this book is about sunshine and rainbows, you might need to think again. So read this book to actually know the endings and the reasons behind it, because you need to be ready mentally. So who to recommend this book to? I would love to recommend this book to those who wanted to know more about children with disabilities, especially with autism disorders or even Asperger's syndrome. This is the book for you to actually learn more about them. So maybe after reading this book, you can actually make some other research on your own. Secondly, I would love to recommend this book to the parents out there, the parents who are actually struggling with this kind of disabilities, or even the parents who wanted to know more. For the summary of this book is mainly about Max. Max is a 9-year-old boy that had an imaginary friend named Budo. So if any of you guys watch Inside Out, it reminds me a lot of Bing Bong. So Budo is like Bing Bong, an imaginary friend. So Max is quite an interesting boy. For some people, they may look at Max as an odd boy or a weird boy because of his behaviors. He was different in so many ways. He cannot make eye contact with people. He cannot be touched, even his mother. He cannot make friends. He did not know how to actually socialize with other people. He even cannot change his daily routine and habits. For example, if he need to go to bed at 8 p.m., he need to go to bed at 8 p.m. If he likes to go to this certain kind of restaurant, he can only eat at that restaurant only. So it is quite weird, it is quite peculiar for a 9-year-old boy to actually have this kind of behavior. However, despite all these behaviors, he still had so many other specialties. He loved maps. He can remember everything on the maps. He can remember the countries. He loved Legos. He loved anything that is related about war. He can watch movies about war and actually remember everything that happens in that movie. So those are the things that can be considered as his specialties or his abilities. So after reading this book for some time, I thought that Max is really an autism boy. But after doing some research and after doing some readings, after referring to some people, well, actually, he is a kid with an Asperger's syndrome. So what is actually Asperger's syndrome? Asperger's syndrome is one of the autism spectrum disorders. An Asperger's patient usually have limitations on his interests. However, the patients usually have special interests in certain kind of things. And Asperger's patients usually need to remain his daily routines. So that is the general view on what is Asperger's syndrome. I will put a link of an article that will explain to you more about Asperger's syndrome, how it is actually quite related to autism. So the next thing that happened to Max is when Max need to attend a special class. This special class was conducted by Mrs. Patterson. So the climax of the story was when Max was missing. Everyone panicked because Max was a special boy. So spoiler alert, Max was actually kidnapped. Kidnapped by whom? Kidnapped by Mrs. Patterson, his own teacher. So if any of you guys wonder why would Mrs. Patterson, his own teacher, kidnap him, you can read the book by yourself. I will not spoil that part for you. Maybe you can find the reasons on why Mrs. Patterson loved this special boy named Max. So the story started when Mrs. Patterson kidnapped Max. Well, for the ending, because Max was a special kid, he actually can save himself, but he did not know how. So this is where the crucial part of the story starts, because Budo was reluctant to help Max. Why was he reluctant to help Max? Was because Budo will only exist if Max believed in him. Budo will only exist if Max depends on him. So by staying in the basement, this means that Max will always stay with Budo and will keep on believing in Budo. However, if Budo helps Max getting out of the basement, it means that Max needs to be independent. Max will need to start on making decisions on his own. If this happens, Max will not need Budo anymore. So Budo thinks that it is okay for Budo not to help Max, because if he helps Max, then he will die. But as a loyal friend, as a friend that will always be ready to sacrifice anything for another person, he actually helped Max getting out of there. He helped Max by convincing Max that he can do this, he can do that he can go into the forest, that he can actually cross the road by himself. So of course in the end, Max was saved. But however, for the sad ending, eventually Budo started to fade away because Max stopped believing in him, Max stopped depending on him, and Budo was being forgotten, so Budo died. So for the moral of the story is, parents should know when they needed help. In this story, it shows how Max's dad and Max's mother always fought with each other because one of them was in denial, which is Max's dad. He was so in denial that he had a special kid, but Max's mom knew that something was wrong with his boy. So it is actually important for parents out there to be like Max's mom. You need to realize when you need help to get your children's condition diagnosed as early as possible, because early intervention is key. Stop being in denial, because there will always be hope. Secondly, as a human being, what we can do is we need to change our attitudes toward these children with disabilities. Stop labeling these children, such as calling them freaks or retarded. You need to be kind. If these children with disabilities were having a meltdown, it is not polite for you to actually stare at them or stare at the parents. So try to be considerate. And lastly, the moral of the story is to always give support to this kind of parents. Be considerate, give them space, lend them a helping hand when they need it, because you will always need to believe that being a parent is hard, but being a parent to special kids is even harder. So that is all from me. I hope that by reading this book, it can give you a whole lot of new perspective on how you see the children with disabilities, especially with autism or even Asperger syndrome. I hope that you can actually learn more and actually do some research regarding these disorders, and I am also hoping for the people out there to actually increase the awareness on autism. That is all from me. Thank you and see you again.